Hi everyone, this is my biggest challenge video for the MIT 885 Practicum. It's going to get started with the issue. I found with myself, as well as some things that I found out from some other teachers when I was doing my professional development plan, that of course some of the biggest issues is student engagement. That's always a big deal, especially when they're so used to being constantly engaged in like their phones or video games or whatever else. It can be kind of hard as this for teachers. The other thing as well is student usage. And, are they using the technology? Do they know how to use the technology? Are they using it properly? And as well as like accountability, I would love to make a flipped classroom, where I create all these great interactive presentations, they learn at their own pace. And then when they come to school, where is the only place they can actually do video editing, they're ready to go. And then we're not wasting any time. We can spend the time actually doing project work, lab work. Well, they're not accountable. They don't do what they're supposed to do. I don't know if it's just something they're just not used to or whatever, but there's no sense of accountability there. Well, how can, the ISTE standards help us with that? And some of the ones I looked at were the four you see there, and they apply in, certain ways. Now, this is mostly meant for, teachers, what helps or doesn't help in engagement, keeping those students accountable. Also the needs, students need and want the interactivity, as far as like it does help in engagement, that they can actually interact with whatever it is they're doing. And also their use of technological knowledge, like I said, do they know how to use it? Are they doing it properly? As well as like, are we as teachers, is the technology the thing that they're learning, or is the technology the thing that's helping them learn? If you're not, because they're going to be so engaged with using the technology, they might actually not be learning what it is you want them to learn. And so that's always something to be careful about. So when I think about the solution, the very first place is, of course, go through the research. And for one, like it's sort of like when we did the article summaries, you got to have that backing. Otherwise, are you doing it correctly? It does help to know, ooh, if I don't do it a certain way, it's not going to work. And so, when we're looking at, say, 1A, this whole thing began because teachers were setting the goals. I want to engage my students. I want to improve the learning, and that it is, effective. And so, one of the things that, interactivity does improve engagement is something you learn from research, and especially when we look at staying current with that research, knowing that does help to support the improved student learning outcomes. And the fact is that computers allow that interactivity as well as tools for accountability. For instance, if you can look at the version history for a group shared document, and I can see who's actually been contributing. As well, I was just showing a teacher, the other day, is that when, for instance, if they're having this online school that we have to do right now, are they actually looking at your stuff? Well, you can click this right here, be able to see who the viewers are. I can go directly to my network, and I can see all the students that are actually have been looking at it. And so if a student ends up not doing the project, or they do it poorly, I'm like, well, why'd they do this poorly? I spent a long time doing 83 slides here. Oh, they didn't even look at it. Well, no wonder they did so poorly. And that goes along with the assessment data, which I'll get into in a second. But understanding, okay, it's one thing to look at the research and then, promise yourself and set your goals, but it's actually in, are you actually using the strategies and principles in a good way? And that's really where, 5C comes in, explore and apply those instructional design principles to create those innovative digital learning environments that engage and support the learning. Once again, dealing with engagement. And then, of course, that they are learning. Are they using the technologies to use the technology, as a tool, or are they just using technology and they think it's fun and then they're engaged with that and not the actual content? The other thing is dealing with this assessment data. Now, this one's kind of a stretch because it deals with, use assessment data to guide progress and communicate with students, parents, and education stakeholders to build student self-direction. Self-direction is really good for engagement, when they can actually do it on their own. But when we talk about assessment, I don't look at assessment as just being like summative or formative. I think it's more of an ongoing process. I'm constantly checking to see that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's a feedback loop in a way. And so when I look at assessment in that way, the data, such as seeing that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing, they're actually, contributing to their group through the version histories as well as the trending. I can actually see that they're doing the presentations. Then I know that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. And if not, I can communicate to the parents and being like, listen, and to the student, like, listen, I can tell you're not doing well because you're not actually looking at the stuff. Now, technology is still, it'd be nice to know that they're doing it for a certain amount of time or whatever else. Certain websites can do that. Not Google just yet, but eventually that technology might catch up, and that is something that would be beneficial in the future. So when I think about the IST standards, the great thing about it is it really gives you a good idea and a good place to start. Like I can focus on that standard, and I know there's several different pieces of it that I have to do, and if I don't do those several different pieces, then I might miss out on the overall purpose. And that's, once again, I understand why those standards fit. I've already kind of explained that. And I stuck to teachers more or less because I couldn't really find things that really applied as much for, say, either the students or for the coaches. But for the most part, these standards, whether it be like setting the goals, researching, making changes as necessary, making sure that it is innovative and that you're actually using those instructional strategies in a proper way, and then using the data to help reevaluate, that they are getting those outcomes that you want, and then constantly making changes to be able to improve on that. And that's why I feel like these standards did really well for understanding, student engagement, proper usage, as well as accountability. And the IST standards help us to do that, especially when it comes to technology. All right. Thank you very much, and take care.